guest is an entrepreneur who has started many successful businesses. Her newest business is called a home decor and virtual DIY painting workshop company called Little August Ranch. She's with us today to talk about her experiences as an entrepreneur, share her best tips for growing a small business. Please welcome Gina Mote. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. We're going to talk about some really fun stuff because we're going to talk about Etsy. We're going to talk about Shopify. We're going to talk about crafting and how we all need an outlet, from our businesses. And there's so many good things that I'm excited to talk to you about. But tell us what inspired you to start Little August Ranch?
Well, so the idea about Little August Ranch came to me like years and years ago. We were living up in Idaho and frankly freezing to death. But while I was raising kids, my favorite month was always August because the kids were home. Ours didn't go back to school until September. They were always home. There were no holidays, there was no birthdays, anything like that. And so years ago, I had craft businesses and I had a scrapbook store and all that. And I always thought, well, if I ever get back into it, I want it to have something with August in it. Um, Fast forward and many things later, my husband and I, we actually left Idaho back to his home state of Arizona, where it's nice and warm. And lo and behold, he ripped me out of my suburban house that we'd bought there and put me on 2.5 acres in the middle of the country, desert country. And I'm like, this is like a ranch because I'm thinking like Green Acres, whatever, Zsa Zsa Gabor, the that's I cannot tell you how many heels I have from past events. And like I don't wear anything but flip-flops. So Little August Ranch is like it's not a huge working ranch like with animals and stuff. So put the little in there, but we're a little wood ranch. Border collies, desert snakes, that kind of thing.
I love that. How did you go from like the inspiration of getting it off the ground to building it into the successful business that it is today?
Well, anything I ever do just kind of, I don't know. I I start like this is just going to be a small little my like encore career thing. We're almost to 8 grandchildren now, and so I wanted to have the time to travel and do that kind of thing. But we while we were building this house here that we're in now, we had to stay in an RV for 5 months. And if you have ever been close with a border collie before, you would know that living in a tin can is not the ideal situation. And it was raining super duper hard, all this noise all the time. It was crazy. I ended up just getting on Pinterest and looking at all these craft things, that kind of thing. And I had all these ideas of what I was going to do for my house. My husband, on the other hand, he's like, we're not going to start doing craft shows, are we? Good? Because we did that years ago. I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. Anyway, it just kind of went from there where I started making things and I posted a few things on Facebook just to show my friends and family, hey, look what I made. And from there, people are like, oh, can I have one? Can you make me one? And I said to Scott, like, well, I guess we're going to be making this. It just happened. I can't even tell you how that happened, but we ended up starting to do the craft shows and whatnot. And from there, it just kept scaling up.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Where do you see it like growing and changing over the next couple of years?
Well, so we stopped doing the actual craft shows because number one, this is North Phoenix, so it's very, very hot. Number two, it's our things at that time were very, very physically demanding as far as setting up and hauling in. We had really big wooden signs and stuff. So we've already made major, major changes and just we've only been here a year and a half, but we've already made huge major changes with that. Our Etsy store has become so, it's such a huge blessing, but at the same time, it's really, really demanding. There's an awful lot to be done every single day. And so one of the things that we're doing to kind of scale up and back at the same time, like scale back on time, but scale up in business, we are adding a subscription kit. That's like, I didn't even announce it to my private audience yet. So you're almost hearing it here
I
first.
love it. I love it.
But yeah, we are starting a subscription box here in the next month. And so that'll help, two things. It will help Little August Ranch continue to grow, but it'll also give us some time back because like I said, we're empty nesters and we wanted to do this. Absolutely. The income is really a huge blessing, but we also don't want to be working 12 hours a day.
Right. Something that you started to give you the flexibility has now become this massive thing that if you're not careful could really take over your life. So it's great
Yes.
that you are sensing that, you're recognizing that, and you're taking steps to change that. Now, in regards to Etsy, because I know there's so much talk about Etsy versus your own website. I know that you have both and you're revamping your website. But tell me kind of the decision that you made of to start on Etsy, but you have both. So what are the benefits of both?
Okay, so we started our Etsy store only because we were already doing the craft marketplace. And in order to run a credit card, you have to use something. You can use Square, whatever that is, but Square connects with Etsy. And so my daughter had talked about, oh, you should do Etsy before. And I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. And I really do like technology an awful lot. So it's not difficult for me to do. And actually, Etsy makes it very simple. But that's the only reason why I started on Etsy, was just to have that connection back, to run the credit cards through. So we started Etsy. It would be November will make 2 years, but we were only using it for credit card for the first 6 months. That was it. So the very limited product that we had up there, I had this little thing that just said, custom item craft show. And so people really couldn't order that. It was just items that they were buying at the craft show. And then I would change the money on that. But from there, at the end, let's see, we were only doing the craft shows for maybe 4 or 5 months before the wind started hitting and blowing our stuff everywhere. And I thought, you know what? We need to build a website. We need to do Etsy. I'm really familiar with websites. So I built that. And then I realized, holy Hannah, I put the cart before the horse. All I needed to do is put some things on Etsy. I started doing that, put some juicy words with it, kind of like I have a really good understanding of search engine and all the juicy words and that kind of stuff, and really honing into how a customer would approach looking for a product. And so what I realized is Etsy already has this audience. They've invested, like tens of millions of dollars more on bringing in customers and whatnot. And when you have your own website, you have to do all that work yourself. It's all on you. You spend the money, you promote it, you get it out there. And so what I decided to do is just really keep all of my new product out there on Etsy and see what happened. And I'll tell you what, the sale started absolutely immediately for me. Again, I know how to use the words correctly. That is the piece that you need to really spend the time with. I've had so many people ask me if I would teach a course on that. I was like, maybe someday. Right now, I'm still, doing a heck of a lot of that, learning and stuff still. And it's never perfected because things always change. However, definitely if you're starting a website of your own, or a business of your own, and it is in the handmade arena. Etsy, you can only be handmade or vintage. That's it. And vintage, like, you have to be certified and
Wow.
vetted and all that kind of thing. So make sure, if you're one of those two fields, I would say start on Etsy. It's really low cost. There was this great big, scandal a few months ago because they raised their fee by 1%. It's 6.5%. If I were to have my things in a store, they would charge me 30%.
Wow.
Plus I have to drive it there all the time and that kind of thing, and make sure that the inventory is correct, and something can get stolen and that's on me, not them. So there's all these other factors, but when in Etsy, they're driving the traffic to you, as long as you've got, your words great, take great pictures, that kind of thing. And then from there, develop your website. Your fees might be a little bit less. Like I use Shopify, but you have to, create that yourself or hire somebody. There's so many different bells and whistles, depending on what package you go with, that you can really create a beautiful experience for your customer. And that's what we're working on right now. We're working on some tutorials, that kind of thing, that we can plug into Shopify. We can't do that on Etsy. So
I l-
I would strongly suggest to start on Etsy, grab your following, that kind of thing. And then if you want to build your website after that.
well, and I think that's great to say that it's okay to start really small, that
Mhm,
using Etsy just for the credit card processing and continue to build up. I think so many of us get locked into this where we've got to have this big, beautiful website up front and you've got to invest all this time and energy and money. And it's just not true. You can use existing platforms. Yes, they're going to charge you a little bit of money, but like you said, it's relative, right? That
mhm,
30% to 6.5 is like, holy cow, that is a deal.
mhm. Exactly. And I've had, well, when you list something on Etsy, it costs you 20 cents. And every time somebody buys that, it's 20 cents. So it's 20 cents and 6.5%, which is, again, it's pennies. I mean, some of my things are over $100 and it's just, but you figure that into your price, of course,
Sure.
that kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely figure that in. The one of the advantages going with a Shopify website that I do appreciate though is I have my Facebook business page, and I've spent quite a bit of time, really just kind of connecting with customers that may have bought on Etsy or past friends and family, that kind of thing that come into that door. What I like about Shopify is when you have your products on Shopify, again, you pay them a small percentage, but what they do in turn is they advertise out a little bit, and they hook up with your Facebook business page. So this is
Oh,
something that doesn't cost me any extra money at all. And if I do a lot of DIY kits as well as finished product. But when I put something new on Facebook and I tag it, then it goes right back to my store. So people can shop that way too. And strangers find me that way. So
that's so convenient.
it is.
Being able to link those together, that's so handy,
Yeah.
especially when we're talking about like selling on social media. What do you think is your biggest challenge in that handmade business space?
Well, of course, for all of us, it's time, right? To
Right.
get other things done. But for me, a lot of it is because of what I do. We design some of our own product, but we also rely on designers, because that's a whole other category on in Etsy is digital designers. And I can do that. I actually have a design background, but you can't do everything. And so my biggest thing is to hone down into what I used to be at, like, what do you do best? But you get to a certain age, it's like, what do I want to do best? What do I want to really spend my time with? I love to teach, and I haven't been teaching in the last year because I've been so busy, with all the making and shipping and trying to perfect the shipping department. And we're a two-person operation. Our son helps with digital stuff, but other than that, it's my husband and I all day, every day. I'm like, okay. So certain things that I finally said, okay, I need to hire this out. I need to hire that out. I had a VA that I loved that was doing my emails, and she went and got a great other job. And so I lost her right after I
Darn
got her going.
it.
I know. So I'm hiring. But that's the thing is just to know, what do you want to spend time with, really getting to know and really perfecting, because you can make it just all encompassing. You could work this literally 12, 14 hours a day we have.
Wow.
But yeah, just hone in and hire out, when as you scale up in your business, to know when to let this go and that go. And
Well, and
yeah.
I'm glad that you brought that up because you have started other businesses in the past, but you're
Mhm.
using those skills from completely different businesses in this new business. So let's talk about that because I think sometimes people get locked into, am going to transition to a completely different business. How
Mhm.
do I even do that?
Right. Like, so for years and years, I've always been the crafter and everything in the distant past. And I had a clothing business before the internet was even really a thing. And it did very, very well. Hand painted clothing. And I went from that to scrapbook store, which the internet, I did have a couple of spaces online that I sold. But it was, brand new. I built my first website from How to Build a Website for Dummies book. So it was like that long ago. But I went from there to becoming a certified health coach, and we were actually in a network group for a while, direct sales kind of thing, and did very well. So, but I took a lot of training along the way because I noticed that the world was really going online and people were busy and they didn't want to come and sit down in front of me, even as a certified health coach and whatnot. So I built programs that were online, and we could do a check-in face to face on a Zoom, or it could be completely pre-made, and the person could just go in and click the boxes as they went along. I've taken a lot of what I learned, and I paid for a lot of training throughout the years. Trust me, it didn't just come all in here one day. I totally believe in looking for the bits and pieces, Google search, that kind of thing. But once you hone in on, this is a skill I really need to learn, seek those coaches out, pay for those coaches, because they really do have that expertise to help you to that next step. But I just gathered all those pieces along the way. And now here we are, doing what we're doing in the craft space, but it comes from a place that, as a certified health coach and going into COVID a couple of years ago, I noticed that a lot of people were not hearing me anymore on, a lot of things to be healthy. Everybody was home making bread and getting drunk. I don't know.
True.
I know. No, so they were, but I kept telling everybody, do what you really love. Well, they really love that, I guess. But no, I just that kind of thing. And I'd like, wait a minute, but I'm not doing what I really love. And so, having been in that RV for months and months and looking at all that Pinterest and knowing that I want to make things for myself, I kind of just went, well, you know what, if I want to make the things, and remembering about, my scrapbooking gals, and I used to run retreats for 65 ladies twice a year. It was great fun. They needed that. They weren't getting that break. And so, just kind of everything came together. I'm like, well, what if I started just making the DIY kits where they can just buy the pieces and paint them themselves? That way I don't have to paint everything, right? But yeah, so just all those. And one of the things that I could say is you're looking to start a business, look at everything you've ever done before. It doesn't have to line up to, I was this, so now, I'm going to do this. It can be completely different, but you still have skills that you can hone into.
Well, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think a lot of us don't, myself included, I used to be a scrapbooker. I loved that. That was my outlet, but that kind of got thrown to the wayside as business picked up and things got busier and we got distracted. If someone doesn't know what their creative outlet is, how would you help them find that or determine that? Because I think that there's so many benefits of letting that creative energy come out in whatever,
Mhm.
that looks like for somebody. What's your advice on that?
You know, I was kind of all over the map with that myself going into this new world, because when I started years ago, it was hand painted clothing. And that was an accident. I started painting on baby birth cloths when I had babies, and people were like, "Oh, that's cute. Can you make me some?" So listening for those clues, always listen for those clues, the people around you, what people seem to be interested in, that kind of thing. But for my clients that throughout the years and stuff, when I was doing scrapbooking, yeah, that was huge. Scrapbooking at one point in time took over quilting, which had never been done before. This time around, for me, when I was looking for a new craft or hobby, or when I was in that RV, I actually looked at some different, like, all encompassing, like, there were kits that you could get that would teach you, weaving one week, and then pottery, and then this and that. And I started looking at all that and like, okay, well, but I don't want to learn this. I don't want to learn that, or, play with this and play with that and stuff. But I spend a lot of time on Pinterest looking at the different things. I kind of made some little, or I pinned all kinds of different pieces, made different boards that I kept private. And like, okay, what really speaks to me? What do I see that I think that I can do? I think that I can learn if, I'm watching other people and whatnot. Well, painting for me, that's simple. But what I really started on Etsy, I started doing glass work, which I'd never done before, like broken glass. So that's something that I'm not currently teaching, but I sell it, and that's great. But that really spoke to me. And I've had a lot of people that have asked me, can you teach this? Can you teach that? So just continuously listening to your people out there and seeing, what everybody is interested in at the time. I think that just about anybody really can learn how to paint a tiered tray as long as you just have the desire to want to make pretty things for your house.
Mhm.
I've had small children. I've had, older people than me. No, but I'm talking like 90s and whatnot that had said that they had never painted before, didn't remember painting since they were a little child. Learn how to do this because it's not fine detail. You can, but you don't have to do like intense shading and that kind of thing. We can do very simple technique and it can still look very elegant and nice for your home. So yeah, I think for the individual that's just looking for the next thing, like Pinterest is a great place just to go and look around and see what you're interested in. I'm sorry, I kind of went in different
No,
directions.
no, I think that that's good because
Yeah,
a
Pinterest.
lot of people are looking for that. And when you said Pinterest, another thing that kind of like popped into my brain was YouTube. Like going and looking at your search history, like what you're looking for, what you're interested in. Same thing with Pinterest. Like that is a huge search engine looking to see like what kind of catches your eye that could really be an outlet for you. Those are probably two massive places that you could start to find out what's interesting to you
Mhm.
and potentially if you could turn it into a business as well. And one thing that I ask all my guests is what's one piece of advice that you would give to a small business owner?
Oh boy. I mean, there's so many different things, but one of the things that people say to me most often is, I'm thinking about starting an Etsy store,
Mhm.
but I'm afraid that it's going to get crazy like yours and overwhelm your time. And so I always tell them, like, you have control. I don't care what you're doing, if it's a regular website, Etsy, whatever it is, you have control. You can actually go into any of those things and put quantity one. When it's gone, it's gone. So don't be crazy like me and put quantity 500 and then you end up selling 500 ornaments in a weekend because that happened. But you can actually do one at a time. Keep it small or put 10 if that's what you're comfortable with. You can keep that small. You don't have to become overwhelmed. So that's what I strongly suggest. You can continuously go in and change those numbers even that same day, but keep it small, keep it to what you're comfortable with.
That's such great advice and such sound business advice that our businesses don't have to completely overwhelm us. We have the control to say, I'm just going to keep these at small quantities and
Mhm.
just continue to grow from there. Now, you have something very special for our listeners, and I'm excited that you have a coupon code to share with us. So tell us about that, how we can redeem that.
Okay, so go to either littleaugustranch.com or you can go to Etsy and then you just spell, when you're looking for a business name, you spell it all together. So Little August Ranch. There's also Little August Ranch DIY. You don't go on there. That's just my SVG files, which you probably don't know what that is. But anyway, yeah, just go to Little August Ranch, either one, and Jill 22 is the coupon code that you put in. Either site will do that.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend time with us. I think it's so great that this advice that we don't always get to hear about the differences between Etsy and Shopify and that you can do both, I think is huge for our listeners. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.